What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cab Show. I'm going to list the greatest UFC fighters of all time. Yes, there's a lot of them, but I want to talk about at least the top 20 greatest UFC fighters ever. I want to go first and start off with Royce Gracie. This is back when UFC first started. We're talking before, obviously when they had the red and blue corner. This was back in the day where they had tournaments where guys fought 3 or 4 times in one night. Royce Gracie fought 4 times in one night, won the tournament, 3-time tournament champion. So shout out to Royce Gracie. He's one of those smaller guys where he would get the bigger guys and just submit them. You know, he was a crazy jiu-jitsu, it was insane how he would do it, where he would be the smaller guy, yet he would dominate the bigger guys. And they didn't know what was going on. This was probably in the 90s when this was going on, where they're like, how is this small guy just dominating these big guys? And Royce Gracie was the first guy to really do that. He was 15-2 and 3 ties in the UFC. It was amazing. So shout out to Royce Gracie. He first started it. Like I said, there was tournaments then. You know, we see one guy fights in one night. You know, he would fight 3 or 4 guys in one freaking night. So shout out to Royce Gracie getting it done, starting it off. And then we got to go BJ Penn. BJ Penn, he was amazing. He was 3-time successful title defense. He beat Matt Hughes twice. Lightweight, welterweight champion. So shout out to BJ Penn. Even though his record in the UFC wasn't that great, we have to understand when BJ Penn came up, he was around the time, you know, where Matt Hughes was around, where GSP was around, where UFC really started to take off. That's when he started to come. So shout out to BJ Penn. He's in my UFC Hall of Fame. He's in my top. So shout out to BJ Penn. And then we got Dominic Cruz. He's 24-4. Amazing UFC career. He has the most wins in UFC, in WEC bantamweight history with 14, which is crazy. Dominic Cruz, 14. That is insane. 3 successful title defenses. And Dominic Cruz, where he was in his peak was about 2009, 2010 time was when Dominic Cruz was really in his prime. So, you know, shout out to Dominic Cruz. He's in my top, you know, amazing fighter. And then probably my favorite fighter, even currently right now, shout out to Max Holloway. He's 23-7. Most wins in UFC featherweight history with 18. He had 3 successful title defenses. Max Holloway, he brings it every single night. And I love Max Holloway because, you know, he's the guy that really been fighting since he got in the UFC. And he fights 3 or 4 times a year, maybe more, even if that. So I think for Max Holloway, I love him. I love his dedication, his hard work to his craft, and really just, you know, coming over adversity. When he first fought Conor McGregor back in, I think it was 2013, yes, Max Holloway lost by decision and really tore up by McGregor. Ever since that loss from McGregor, he just took off, and like I said, he became champion. So shout out to Max Holloway. He's definitely in my top. And then we got Frankie Edgar. He was 23-11-1 in the UFC. He's a former lightweight champion. He three-time successful title defenses. So, you know, Frankie Edgar, if you guys do not mention Frankie Edgar in the top UFC fighters, that's insane to me. That would basically saying that you don't really understand UFC fighters. You just don't. You don't understand the game, because Frankie Edgar deserves to be in that. So shout out to Frankie Edgar. Then we got Henry Cejudo. He is back. He did retire for 3 years. He came back and lost, but he's 16-2. He's a 4th all-time double champion. 2 successful title defenses, even though he just recently lost for the belt. Look, you know, Henry Cejudo, he's an Olympic champion as well. I mean, that might be even more impressive. I mean, we're talking the Olympics here, you know, globally. Like, this is insane. He won the Olympics, so shout out to Henry Cejudo. He's well-deserved, you know, he should definitely be in the top 20, 25, you know, 20 or 25. He should be in that top, dude. Henry Cejudo, he's an amazing athlete, you know, former, like I said, 2-time champion. So shout out to Henry Cejudo. And then we got Kamaru Usman. He's still active right now. He's 20-2, most consecutive wins in welterweight history, which is crazy, right? And then he's got 5 title defenses. So Kamaru Usman, even though he did lose to Leon Edwards, got knocked out, which really devastating. But I just think for Kamaru Usman right now, just getting back into it, and then I do think a trilogy with Leon Edwards does make sense eventually down the line, or even Colby Covington. I mean, both Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington had really close fights in both of their fights, so a trilogy with Colby Covington and Leon Edwards is definitely in sight for Kamaru Usman, even though, there is some speculations where he could fight Chimaev. That'd be a great fight as well. I just think for Kamaru Usman right now, I do think he is passing his prime. I think his prime years was like 2016 to 2021, somewhere in that frame, 2022. But I just think Kamaru Usman, his knees are starting to catch up with him. He's starting to get slower. So I just think for Kamaru Usman, he's definitely in the Hall of Fame, but I just don't see him really getting that UFC belt at 170 again. But shout out to Kamaru Usman. And then we got the legend Randy Couture, 19-11 in his UFC career. He was a UFC tournament winner back when they fought many times in one night. He's a 3-time heavyweight champion. He's a 2-time light heavyweight champion, dude. He was a great wrestler. I mean, Randy Couture, he was an animal. And I do think he did beat Brock Lesnar when they first fought, and then Brock beat him the second time. But Randy Couture, he was a beast, dude. A freaking animal. Light heavyweight and heavyweight champion. So Randy Couture paved the way for these heavyweights that are in right now. I mean, Randy Couture, without the heavyweight division, I don't think it would be that popular because of Randy Couture, dude. He just set the bar. He said, hey, you know what? I'm going to out-wrestle him. I'm just going to be more of a man than this guy and take him down and ground and pound. That's what I'm going to do, and that's what Randy Couture did. So shout out to Randy Couture, an amazing guy who is such a champion. And then my favorite fighter, UFC fighter of all time, I got to put him in there, Rampage Jackson, who was 37-12 in the UFC. Literally, when I fell in love with Rampage, when I was like, man, this guy is just a crazy fighter. He's insane. When I saw him back in Pride, this was like later 2000s, like 2004 time, where when I first saw him fight in Pride, I was like, dude, he picked some guy up and slammed him down, knocked him out in conscience, hit him with a couple more rights. It's just insane. I mean, the level of tenacity, the level of competitive that we see Rampage. He howls like a wolf, wears a chain. I love Rampage, dude. He was the UFC light heavyweight champion back in 2007. Took it from Chuck Liddell. He beat Chuck Liddell in Pride and in the UFC, which is insane, right? And we're talking the prime Chuck Liddell, dude. The guy who set the bar. So Rampage, he had one successful title defense, even though I think he should have had more. But Rampage, he got into Hollywood a little bit. I think that's kind of why he doesn't have more UFC title defenses. But Rampage, he's a legend in my book. Former champion, former undisputed light heavyweight champion. So shout out to Rampage Jackson, an amazing talent. And really, I think he was the Conor McGregor before Conor McGregor. I really do. He had that personality, the tenacity. So shout out to Rampage Jackson. And then the most influential UFC guy, probably pound for pound of all time, is Chuck Liddell. I mean, crazy. 21-9. He was a former light heavyweight champion. He had 4 successful title defenses. I mean, Chuck Liddell, everybody knows who Chuck Liddell is. You don't have to be huge in the UFC and in the fight game to realize who was Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell is a beast, dude. He's an animal. I love Chuck Liddell. And really, without Chuck Liddell, I don't think the UFC would be as popular as it is today, where guys are talking smack like Conor McGregor, probably the second most influential guy in the UFC ever, behind Chuck Liddell. I just think Chuck Liddell set that bar to where, I could do whatever I want to do with the guy and say whatever I want. And Chuck Liddell was on Sports Illustrated back in the day. So I think Chuck Liddell set the bar for guys, for example, like Conor McGregor. I mean, Conor McGregor is definitely in my UFC Hall of Fame, 22-6. Even though his hunger is gone, he's the first UFC double champion, featherweight and lightweight champion, dude. And like I said, him and Chuck Liddell are probably the most influential guys in the UFC that they've seen yet, dude, which is insane. But for Conor McGregor, he set the bar to where it was like, hey, you can become rich in this game. You don't have to be broke and to be punched in your face in and get beat up, just get by. We see McGregor now, Lamborghini yacht, super rich, super wealthy now. So I think a lot of guys coming up now in the UFC realize, hey, there is a money to make in the UFC, where a lot of people are saying, oh, you only get like 40, 50K a fight, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, Rampage back in 2007 when he fought Chuck Liddell for the title, he made $5 million. So, you know, a lot of people like to speculate and say this and that, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of it is just blowing smoke, and really the cream rises to the top, and Conor McGregor did that. You know, selling Proper 12 whiskey. He was on the Forbes top athlete of all time, right? Or not all time, top athlete of the year. I think it was 2021 when McGregor was in the top of the Forbes for athletes. So, you know, shout out to McGregor, man. He really set the bar to say, hey, you know, we're going to say whatever we want. We're going to come and invade. If this was back in the days like horseback, on invade his villa and take everything from him. And that's what, you know, Conor McGregor did to Aldo. You know, it's just so many other people. Dustin Poirier, the first fight they fought. So I just think for McGregor, man, he's one of those guys where the trendsetters guys, where it's like, hey, this guy's once in a lifetime. Just like Chuck Liddell, he's once in a lifetime talent, man. We're never going to see these guys again. So shout out to Conor McGregor, really boosting the UFC to where it is today. I mean, without Chuck Liddell and Conor McGregor, I don't think the UFC would be as popular. I don't think they'd be on ESPN Plus at all, you know, without these guys. So shout out to Chuck Liddell and Conor McGregor. And then we got the greatest female fighter of all time, Amanda Nunes. She's in my top UFC fighters, 22-5. You know, she's the third UFC double champ. She's the first fighter in the UFC to defend her belt twice in the same night, dude, at the same time, which is crazy. Or not the same night, but at the same time, which is insane. But Amanda Nunes, she's a beast, dude. You know, in her prime, no one can touch her. She recently just fought and won and retired. Well-deserved. Shout out to Amanda Nunes. I'd love to see her get in some type of UFC coaching, whatever it is. But Amanda Nunes, the greatest female fighter, UFC fighter of all time. I mean, we haven't seen a woman like this hit as hard as Amanda Nunes does. Hits like a truck, hits like a dude. Shout out to Amanda Nunes, one of the greats. And then we got Khabib, 29-0, you know, former lightweight champion. You know, Khabib, he would really just out-wrestle guys, and that's what he would do. Even though the only knack on Khabib is he fought a lot of strikers. I wish he would have went up to 170 and fought some guy, you know, really at his walking around weight. You know, Khabib probably walks around at 180, so he's dropping down to 155. And obviously we'll never forget UFC 229 when he fought McGregor, and a lot of people, including myself, I was like, oh, McGregor's going to spark Khabib. Little did I know, no, Khabib came ready, and Khabib, you know, he eats, trains, and sleeps that, and shout out to Khabib, one of the most humblest champions we've ever seen. And Khabib, he's just an ambassador for the sport, into coaching right now, training younger generations to come. I love Khabib, man. I mean, people who hate on Khabib just have no heart, because, dude, Khabib is a legend, man. He truly is. He's truly humble, and I just think for everything Khabib's worked for, he deserves that, man. And he's 29-0 for a reason, even though I do think he lost one fight. This was really towards his beginning of his career when he was at 170. He fought a wrestler guy that took him down, actually. Didn't really hold him down, but took him down. But we just don't see that anymore. You know, Khabib, he's a legend. In a lot of people's eyes, Khabib's at number one, which I don't think he's at number one UFC, guys. I would put Khabib definitely in the top 10, but Khabib's definitely up there. Shout out to Khabib, man. He's a legend. And then Demetrius Johnson, a.k.a. Mighty Mouse, 31-4-1, dude. Crazy. He's the flyweight champion, 11 title defenses, dude. And a lot of people forget about Mighty Mouse, dude. Demetrius Johnson, he was a legend. And I believe the UFC really was so tired of him winning, they said, dude, we're going to cut this weight out and just go up a division. Like, this is done. We're going to dismiss this weight class. Like, they basically wanted to kick Demetrius Johnson out, was what I understood from it, where it's like, how? You know, this dude is crazy. He's a beast, even though he is, you know, obviously short and definitely doesn't weigh a lot. But at the same time, he's a champion, dude. He's definitely got to be in the top 10. If Demetrius Johnson is not in your UFC top 10, I don't know what to do. Dude, 11 title defenses, that is crazy. So shout out to Demetrius Johnson, well-deserved. And then we got Daniel Cormier, 22-3 in the UFC, won no contest. Both light heavyweight and heavyweight champion, you know, was shot to DC, you know, well-deserved. Daniel Cormier, now he's a you know, announcer for the UFC right now, which he's doing great things. But we have to understand, he did not defeat his nemesis, John Jones, lost to him twice to go. So, you know, Daniel Cormier, take nothing away from him. He's one of the best fighters we've seen, but not the best. But still my top, probably not my top 10, but he's in my top there. And then we got Stripe, 20-4. You know, he's a two-time heavyweight champion. I do believe he beat Cormier before in a fight, Stripe. So he had 4 successful title defenses. So I got to put Stripe up there for sure. You know, just a legend of the sport. So shout out to Stripe. And then we got one of the most, another influential fighters of all time, George St. Pierre, GSP. 26-2 in his UFC career. He's a two-time welterweight champion of the world. I mean, amazing. I mean, we look at GSP and realize, dude, he was one of those trendsetter athletes where we're never going to see a fighter like him. He was kind of like a Khabib before Khabib. You know, to out-wrestle you, outwork you. He's going to wait till you get tired and fatigued. You know, amazing career. And really, his only two losses were to a guy named Matt. Both of them named Matt Serra and Matt Hughes. You know, crazy, right? He lost to two Matts. But that's his only L's he took. And really, GSP, you know, he arguably could have went 28-0. I feel like Matt Serra fight, he kind of underestimated Matt Serra. That's why I think he lost and got knocked out. And then Matt Hughes, he just got outworked there. You know, that was prime Matt Hughes back in the day. And really, GSP was relatively young. But at the end of the day, GSP is one of the most influential UFC fighters of all time. He's in my top 5, really arguably in my top 3. I put GSP in my top 3 right now. I just think without GSP, again, the UFC wouldn't be as big, man. Like some of these old school names where it's just like, dude, the UFC the way it is because of these guys. GSP, you know, Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, you know, just the list goes on and on. So, you know, GSP, shout out to GSP. And then my top 2 UFC fighters of all time, shout out to Anderson Silva, dude. Yes, 34-11, 1-0 contest. Anderson Silva, 7 times KO fight of the night. He's the longest title holder in UFC history. 2,457 days, dude. 2,457 days he held that belt. Longest reign ever. So shout out to Anderson Silva. He was the middleweight champion. He had 10 successful title defenses. And in Anderson Silva's prime, no one could touch him. Nobody could. Not even Chael Sonnen. When Chael Sonnen fought him, he really just killed Anderson Silva for 4.5, 5 rounds. And then the last minute, he gets choked out with a triangle. So, you know, Anderson Silva, he's amazing. The only thing wrong with Anderson Silva is when he would get overconfident or too cocky. Then he got knocked out in a fight, I believe back in 2013 it was, where he got knocked out just being cocky, putting his hands down. But if Anderson Silva just stuck to the MO and just never got cocky, Anderson Silva arguably could have went undefeated and never lost, dude. Like that, I just feel like the only person to defeat Anderson Silva was himself, dude. It really was. And then I saw a fight with Michael Bisping where, you know, Michael Bisping's mouthpiece came out and Anderson Silva kneed him, knocked him out. It was just controversy. Anyway, he ended up losing the fight to Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping got lucky. Really, Michael Bisping got knocked out, which is crazy. The reason I'm bringing that up is, and again, Anderson Silva, if he would just not got too cocky there, he would have finished Bisping way before the mouthpiece came out. So I just think looking at Anderson Silva, you know, just pride got to him in a way. But, you know, honestly, Anderson Silva in his prime, nobody was touching him. Everybody was just like, who is Anderson Silva? His striking's crazy. His knees are crazy. His Muay Thai's crazy. Like, it's insane. And then, you know, obviously Chael Sonnen came and said, I'm going to out-wrestle him, which he did until he got tired and choked out with a triangle. So, you know, Anderson Silva is in my top 3 all time. GSP, Anderson Silva. And then number 1 all-time GOAT is Johnny Bones Jones. Yes, John Jones is the absolute GOAT. I mean, if you were to say John Jones is not the GOAT, I would say how? You know, when I first seen John Jones fight, this was back in like 2010. Actually, it was before that. It was 2009. It was. I forget who was fighting. Anyway, he got illegal elbows. I think it was some guy named Matt. He got an illegal elbow, so he lost that fight from an illegal elbow. But, you know, but John Jones, it debuted in 2008, dude. And then I saw him fight Lyoto Machida, which he's a magician on his feet. Amazing, dude. And he basically made Lyoto Machida look stupid. He hit him with the left. Lyoto Machida fell, and then he ended up his standing choke out. And when I seen John Jones choke Lyoto Machida out at UFC 140, I was like, dude, John Jones is a problem for anybody, dude. Lyoto Machida beat him at his own game, dude. The leg kicks, just standing straight up. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. When I seen that, I was like, dude, John Jones is here and here to stay. Went through Rashad Evans, champion after champion, beat Rampage Jackson, choked him out, beat Daniel Cormier twice, which is crazy. And we look at the second fight when they fought Cormier. It was in the second round where John Jones, you know, threw a high leg kick to Daniel Cormier. He blocked it, and Cormier was like talking crap, like, oh, whatever, kind of setting him up, baiting him up. And then third round he threw the same leg kick that knocked DC out. made him kind of just stumble, and then John Jones' fight IQ tripped DC, which his whole equilibrium's messed up anyway from getting leg kicked in the face. So he tripped him and then ground and pound him, and then lights out. DC's out. The thing is with John Jones is he beats anybody at their game. Chael Sonnen, he out wrestled Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen was known for wrestling. He made Chael Sonnen look like a freaking little truck. You know, it's a little wiki-dig truck, dude, a 4-cylinder. And then, you know, we got John Jones coming in a Mack truck just plowing right through Chael Sonnen, make him look like he was nothing, dude, which is insane. He beats people at their strengths, dude. You know, it's insane. But, you know, for John Jones, he recently became the heavyweight champion, defeated Cyril Gane. You know, hey, I'm just saying, at the end of the day, John Jones would beat anybody. He would beat Francis Ngannou. He would out-wrestle Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou's weakness was getting tired. We saw that in the Stripe fight when he first fought Stripe. The first time they fought, you know, just got fatigued. I think John Jones, he's such a smart fighter where a lot of people overlook that. I think they just look at John Jones and say, oh, his talent's great, blah, blah, blah. They don't look at his mental capacity. They don't look at hey, I'm studying my opponent. What are my opponent's weaknesses here? This is where I'm going to go. Instead of relying solely on his coaches, John Jones does a lot of the work. And I think a lot of that just goes overlooked. So I think John Jones, by far, the greatest UFC fighter. He's like, you know, he would beat Anderson Silva in his prime. I do believe that. Why? You know, Anderson Silva, yes, I'll give you a little nod that Anderson Silva had a little bit better striking than John Jones, but John Jones had the wrestling. He would take Anderson Silva down. He would take these guys down. That's what John Jones does. And John Jones is a great fighter. I mean, he took Daniel Cormier down. Daniel Cormier never gets taken down in the UFC. He took DC down 3 times. Like, dude, this just doesn't happen, dude. And John Jones' striking ability is just top-notch, dude. Top tier, up there with Anderson Silva. So I don't think anybody right now, present day in 2023, wants any piece of John Jones. If you guys want to go see John Jones, go up to heavyweight, you know, and then go do it. But I just think John Jones, if he were to step into the heavyweight at 210 pounds, he would still beat these heavyweight guys. He really would. That's how great John Jones is. That's why he's my number 1 on the list. I mean, everybody, you know, I got John Jones, Anderson Silva, GSP, Khabib in my top 4. You know, I gotta put Khabib there. You know, 29-0, and then I'll put at number 5. I'll put Amanda Nunes up there at number 5. Those are my top 5 UFC fighters of all time. I mean, those people, nobody can have an answer for them. There's nothing. And we look at John Jones and say, you know, without all the troubles that haunted him, you know, all the stuff that outside the octagon with John Jones, still at the end of the day, the only person to beat John Jones is himself. And now he's on his head sharp. He's 35, a little bit older. I feel like he only has a couple more years left in the UFC. But like I said, he debuted in 2008, dude. He's the youngest UFC champion of all time at age 23, dude. At age 23, like, what the heck? The youngest ever at 23, 16 title fights. So John Jones is clear favorite, number 1 UFC fighter of all time. Those are my top fighters of all time. It's the Clouded with Cab show. Let's go!